HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Everyday.
Welcome to the Bahamas Tonight, the weekend edition. Good evening, everyone. I'm LaDawn Davis. Thanks for joining us. Topping the news tonight, the Prime Minister leaves the country tomorrow for 2 weeks to attend critical meetings that could impact the future of the Bahamas. The eventuality of climate change, not only for the Bahamas, but on a global level, will dominate the discussion at the United Nations Conference on Climate Change in Paris, France, early next month, and the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting this week in Malta. Clint Watson will be traveling with the delegation and has his preview.
The Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting is taking place during a critical year when the world determines the path forward on significant global issues, particularly development and climate change. CHOGM will be an opportunity for leaders to discuss and highlight these specific concerns. For the Commonwealth's outgoing Secretary General, His Excellency Kamali Sharma, this meeting will be significant as he expects the leaders to officially launch several new initiatives, including assisting small states' development capacity. Like the Bahamas, Sharma noted that more than half of Commonwealth countries are small island states who most keenly feel the impact of climate change, and their future may depend on their ability to tap into the marine economy. Malta's position as a small island state makes it the ideal setting for a discussion on the blue economy and a shared sustainable future. The Bahamas will strategically target climate change discussions at CHOGM due to its significant impact on our archipelago. For example, the riveting damage caused by fierce Category 4 Hurricane Joaquin, which took an unprecedented path to any other storm, literally forming Bahamian waters to unpredicted track by meteorologists. The devastation of flooding and high winds left more than $60 million in damage to the central and southeast Bahamas. It's these kind of vulnerabilities that Prime Minister the Right Honorable Perry Christie has been speaking to around the world as he called for greater global assistance to help the Bahamas address climate change. He has been heralding that should the sea level rise by 5 to 8 feet, the Bahamas as we know it will be no more. Significant funding has been made available by the United Nations, which the Bahamas hopes to access soon. The next 2 weeks will be crucial for the Bahamas, as a high-level delegation will seek to champion support from the Commonwealth just before moving on to what's being considered the main event at the Climate Change Conference in Paris, France, spearheaded by the United Nations. The Commonwealth is home to a third of the world's people, with 2.2 billion citizens from 53 independent and sovereign states. Those countries identify Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II as head of state. Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
Prime Minister the Right Honorable Perry Christie led a government delegation to Grand Bahama yesterday to pay final respects to a man involved in national development. Italia Hall of our Northern Service in Freeport reports tonight from St. Mary Magdalene Anglican Church in West End.
The West End community, family, friends, along with government officials coming together on Saturday morning to bid farewell to the late Leonard Butler. The Member of Parliament for West Grand Bahama giving a tribute, noting that Butler was a pioneer, one individual whose name may not be affixed in the history books, but certainly for those who are involved in the political climate of the nation would understand the role he played in the building of the country.
Here was a man who, even before the great Sir Lynden Pinling came onto the scene, he was one of those persons who was in the vineyard fighting for the liberation of our country. He formed with members here in West End a band of individuals who went out and fought for and caused for the liberation of the Bahamian people.
It was a grand celebration as many reflected on the life of Butler, who was said to be a strict and disciplined man and a progressive Liberal Party stalwart. The nation's leader, the Right Honorable Perry Christie, adding that he was a man who contributed greatly to the West End community.
So look at his ascendancy. He worked in a power plant, became a manager. He worked with heavy equipment. He obviously had the bent of engineering. And if he had the opportunity to choose a career, would have been some form of engineer. So, for us, when we pause on occasions such as this, do not dismiss people of that generation by saying, oh, well, they were born, they lived, they had a family, and they died. Many of them were exemplars in their communities.
The rector at St. Mary Magdalene Anglican Church, Father Ian Claridge, stating that Butler was a faithful man of God.
He was not one who went to church when it was convenient until his slowing down. He came to church whenever his mind told him to. Whether it was Wednesday morning or Thursday afternoon, he walked up the road and say, Father, no church today? Or is church over? Because that was his focus. And I say that because a lot of us who are able to do it will not even be in church tomorrow morning, say, I received my communion yesterday, later for you.
Many say Leonard Butler has left an indelible mark, a mark which should be remembered in a significant way. Reporting for ZNS Network News,
Tell me,
I'm
how
Natalia
do
Hall.
you deal?
Activities commemorating Women's Week officially began this morning with a worship service at St. Mark's Native Baptist Church in Fox Hill. Scores of women attended the service, including Minister of Social Services and Community Development, the Honorable Melanie Griffin, and her colleague, Foreign Affairs Minister and Member of Parliament for Fox Hill, the Honorable Fred Mitchell. The theme for the week that lasts until November 28th is Women and the Environment Creating Partnerships for Sustainable Development. Minister Griffin noted that the role of women across the country cannot go unnoticed.
We want women to really come out, and we want the entire Bahamas to commemorate this week with us, because without women, the strengthening and working with our men, sustainable development in our country will come to naught. So it's important for us at this time, particularly with the onset of the new Sustainable Development Goals by the United Nations, to focus on sustainable development and the important role that women play in it.
Officer in charge of the Bureau of Women's Affairs, Christine Campbell, outlined just how many women are connected to the environment across the Bahamas.
What we have sought to do also is to salute the many women. I think altogether, even though we have about 20 something of them, there are about, I'm sure, 60 women in the Bahamas who work in the environment, from marine protection of our marine resources, conservation, pollution, climate change, biodiversity, training others in the environment. So it goes the whole gamut, and I'm not just speaking to New Providence, but also in Grand Bahama and Abaco. So we have women all over, and it's a wonderful opportunity to say how much we appreciate them by showcasing some of them in an exhibition.
Now to the Daily Crime Report. Police continuing intense efforts to remove illegal firearms off the streets of New Providence. The latest discovery happened around 3 o'clock this morning when Mobile Division officers were on patrol and heard gunshots on Dunmore Street. The officers then saw a suspicious vehicle speeding away from the area. Police chased the car to the Tonic-Williams-Darling Highway, where authorities say 4 men abandoned the vehicle, fired several shots at officers, and later fled the scene on foot. The officers fired back but were unable to capture the men. After searching the vehicle, the officers found a pistol with a quantity of ammunition. Police confirmed later this afternoon that one of the suspects in this incident was arrested shortly after 9 o'clock this morning. Authorities say he sustained a gunshot wound and is presently detained in hospital in stable condition under heavy police guard. Meanwhile, the Special Selective Enforcement Team seized a quantity of marijuana in the Montel Heights area around 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Police confirmed 3 men were taken into custody for that incident. And still to come, the press honoring its own last night. That story and more when the Weekend Edition continues.